who else gets to go on mainstream television and argue from the standpoint of, I'm saying this as a Christian,
right,
and have people go, you preach it.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you better preach.
Who gets to do that?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Not conservative Christians.
Who gets to, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Because Christianity is the enemy. So here's what things, one of the things that you need to understand, right? Neutrality is not an option. What they must do is marginalize us, okay? They have to marginalize us. So think about it in terms of, for example, in Acts chapter 4. In Acts chapter 4, right, these guys are preaching, and they heal this lame man, and Sanhedrin's like, what are we going to do? Right? What are we going to do? The fact that this noteworthy miracle has happened, that what are we going to do?
Right.
So it's like, what do they first call them? Right? Untrained, unschooled,
Right.
man,
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
uneducated man.
That's
They
right.
marginalize them. They start first by marginalizing them. And one of the ways that they marginalize us as Christians is to only legitimize people who identify as Christians but repudiate every essential doctrine of Christianity.
Yeah. Right.
That's one of the ways that they marginalize Christianity.
Right.
So they have this sleight of hand. And again, it's another, right? Slavery is freedom. It's no. Denying Christ, denying the essentials of the gospel, because the other guy that they have on here with him is another one who's, denied all the essentials of the gospel. Right. They say, this is Christianity. Right.
So you're an aberrant.
Yes.
You're something else.
Yes.
You're an anomaly.
Yes.
You fundamentalist,
Yes.
Bible believing.
Yes. Those other people,
Right.
They're the heretics.
Right.
So this is another way to marginalize Christianity.
And so what we're seeing in one sense or another is another form of Levitical law and church discipline happening right in front of our very eyes.
Right in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
So, Voddie, I remember when you came and did Gays Not the New Black at University of Idaho years ago, one of the things that was really helpful, really stuck with us, and we've repeated it on the show a number of times, was you're kind of walking through after the ball,
Yes.
jamming, desensitizing, and converting.
Yes.
And it seems like we're getting past the conversion stage where it's like it's now at the point of a gun.
Well, that is conversion.
But it's like
So,
but
it's more serious than that.
But this is also still them jamming you.
yeah, it is
Because it's like, are you a Christian?
It's desensitizing.
Yeah.
Right. We're the desensitizing part is there's a man here who's obviously a man
and loves Jesus.
Right. He's dressed in women's clothing. Okay, that's the desensitizing, to just see that, to be exposed to that over and over and over again, to where you don't react to it.
It's normal.
You don't recoil. It's normal. So that's the jamming piece, right? Or that's the desensitizing piece.
Right.
And then the jamming piece is this right here.
Right.
That's right.
Is the Jesus.
Where I'm speaking as a Christian, right? And so now
I follow Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But the other jamming piece is transgender Americans under siege.
The text right there. Yeah.
So
Right.
if you're trying to make this about a transgender person who went in and shot up this school, so now all of a sudden you're being jammed psychologically by this as well, because somehow you have to be able to talk about this tragedy, but not recognize the identity of the shooter. Which is true in every case, unless it's a white cop who shoots a person of color.
Yeah.
So they're giving you the categories by which you should look at this.
Yeah. So I can't help but think that, one of the things has been the blessing of being under Doug's ministry, under Toby's ministry, is that cultural pressures haven't moved my pastors. But I see guys like, Russell Moore. Kind of get to me. He's getting moved.
How about Rick Warren?
Rick Warren's getting moved.
I changed on women pastors or whatever.
Basically, I've seen some of these guys who were big Evas, we call them now at this point, but they're getting pressured and maybe jammed and maybe desensitized and maybe converted slowly through all this process. And it really is
some instances
dislodging.
In some instances, that's what's happening, but in other instances, there are people who were conservative outwardly because that was their in.
That's how they got to their prominence.
That was their end, right? And now that's not the flavor of the month anymore, it's easy for them to revert to that which they
actually were
all along.
They were sympathetic with that, or actually
absolutely,
held it.
absolutely.
Okay.
So in the 80s and 90s, you had to be against Bill Clinton because of his adulterous affair or whatever. And now, that pressure, that cultural kind of conservative pressure, is not blowing that direction.